What if I told you that during World War II, thousands of people were subjected to experiments so horrific that the details remain classified for decades? Experiments involving frostbite, vivisection, and biological weapons, all conducted on living human beings. This isn't fiction. This is Unit 731. And the most disturbing part? The perpetrators were never prosecuted. Instead, they were given immunity by the United States in exchange for their research data. Today, we're uncovering one of history's most terrifying and suppressed war crimes. In 1932, as Japan expanded its empire across Asia, a covert biological and chemical warfare research unit was established in Harbin, Manchuria. It was officially called the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Guandong Army. But its real name was Unit 731. Led by microbiologist Shiro Ishii, this facility had one purpose: to develop biological weapons that could turn the tide of war in Japan's favor. But to perfect these weapons, they needed test subjects. The Japanese military provided them with thousands. Chinese civilians, Soviet prisoners of war, Mongolians, Koreans, men, women, and even children. The Japanese referred to them as maryuta, which translates to logs. Because to Unit 731, these weren't people. They were raw materials. Between 1932 and 1945, an estimated 10,000 people died within the walls of this facility. And what happened to them inside remains one of the darkest chapters in human history. The experiments conducted at Unit 731 weren't just cruel. They were methodical, scientific, and designed to gather data at any cost. Frostbite testing: researchers would expose prisoners to sub-zero temperatures to study the effects of frostbite. Limbs were frozen solid, then thawed using different methods: boiling water, fire, or simply left to rot. The goal was to understand how to treat Japanese soldiers in cold climates. Survivors were often subjected to repeat experiments until their limbs had to be amputated. Then, the experiments would continue on other parts of their bodies. Vivisection without anesthesia: to understand how diseases affected internal organs, prisoners were infected with pathogens like plague, anthrax, cholera, and typhoid. Then, while still alive and conscious, they were dissected. No anesthesia. No mercy. Doctors would remove organs one by one, observing how the body reacted in real time. Pregnant women were not spared. They were infected and dissected to study how diseases passed to unborn children. Pressure chamber tests: prisoners were placed in high-pressure chambers to see how much the human body could endure before organs ruptured. Eyes would be forced out of their sockets. Internal organs would explode. Every result was documented with clinical precision. Biological weapon testing: Unit 731 developed bombs filled with plague-infected fleas. These were tested on tied-down prisoners in open fields. Researchers would observe from a safe distance, recording infection rates and time until death. These weapons were later used in Chinese cities, killing an estimated 400,000 civilians through plague outbreaks. Weapon testing on live subjects: flamethrowers, grenades, and chemical weapons were tested on living prisoners to measure burn patterns, shrapnel damage, and chemical exposure effects. And perhaps most chilling of all, blood transfusions were practiced by draining prisoners completely and replacing their blood with horse blood or seawater, just to see what would happen. As World War II drew to a close in August 1945, the Soviet Union prepared to invade Manchuria. Shiro Ishii knew what was coming. He ordered the destruction of Unit 731. The facility was blown up. Documents were burned. And the remaining prisoners? They were executed to eliminate witnesses. But the personnel? They escaped back to Japan. When the United States occupied Japan after the war, they discovered the existence of Unit 731. General Douglas MacArthur's team began investigating. Here's where the story takes a dark turn. The United States was entering the Cold War with the Soviet Union. They wanted biological warfare data, and Unit 731 had over a decade's worth of human experimentation results, research that would have cost millions of dollars and years of time to replicate. So a deal was made. In exchange for immunity from war crime prosecution, Shiro Ishii and his team handed over their research to the United States. None of the scientists involved were tried at the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union conducted their own trials in 1949, prosecuting some Unit 731 members. But by then, the key figures were protected by American immunity. Shiro Ishii lived freely in Japan until his death in 1959. Many of his colleagues went on to have successful careers in medicine, academia, and industry. The victims? Their names were erased from history. For decades, the Japanese government denied the existence of Unit 731. It wasn't until the 1980s that former members began speaking publicly, and journalists uncovered documents proving the atrocities. In 2002, the Tokyo District Court acknowledged that Unit 731 conducted biological warfare and vivisection, but rejected compensation claims from victims' families. To this day, Japan has never issued a formal apology specifically for Unit 731's crimes. Why does this matter now? Because the data obtained from Unit 731's experiments was used by the United States in their own biological weapons programs during the Cold War. Some argue that the immunity deal set a dangerous precedent, that scientific knowledge could justify unspeakable evil. Others believe the cover-up allowed Japan to avoid fully reckoning with this part of its history, unlike Germany's confrontation with the Holocaust. The site where Unit 731 once stood is now a museum in Harbin, China. It's a stark reminder of what humans are capable of when ideology, war, and science collide without ethics. Unit 731 is a story the world tried to forget. A story where thousands of innocent people became test subjects in the name of scientific progress and military advantage. A story where justice was denied in exchange for data. And a story that forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How far is too far in the pursuit of knowledge? And what happens when we let atrocities fade into silence? The victims of Unit 731 deserve to be remembered. Not as logs, but as human beings whose lives were stolen in one of history's darkest experiments. If this story disturbed you, shocked you, or made you think, hit that like button and subscribe to Underworld Archives. We're dedicated to uncovering the hidden, the forgotten, and the suppressed stories that shaped our world. Drop a comment below. Did you know about Unit 731 before this video? What other dark historical events should we cover next? And remember, history isn't always written by the victors. Sometimes, it's buried by them. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and never stop digging for the truth.